Hi everybody, I'm Joe Nearney and you're watching Ashdown TV. And today we're in Chelmsford here at Ashdown HQ to go through some of the new gear that the guys have got out at the moment. So we're going to be having a look now at the MiBass 220 head with one of the VS 115 cabinets. Okay, so to start off with the front panel of the amp here, you've got a single instrument input with a switchable active passive switch. I've got a passive bass today, so I've got the active button pressed out there. So straight from the off, with the amp set completely flat, to give you an idea of the amp's tone, we've got a nice rich full sound straight out the box, you know. Okay, so yeah, that gives you an idea of the flat sound of the amp, which is really nice, you know, plenty of bass, plenty of mid, nice amount of treble there for snap. Now moving on to some of the tonal shaping that's available on this amp. We've got here the deep and the shape buttons. So to start off with the deep, that basically takes your flat sound and just adds that little bit extra bottom end on there. So to give you an idea of what that sounds like, and then to move on to the shape, the same sort of thing. It takes your flat sound, puts a bit of bottom end on, but the shape gives you more of a scooped sort of sound. So it takes some of the mid out for a more punchy kind of feel. So that gives us this kind of tone. Okay, so now if we move on to the EQ, just quickly talk you through this. You've got a mixture here of sliders and rotary controls. Now basically the rotary controls work like a frequency filter. So to start off with the bass, you've got here a control between 160 and 1.6 kilohertz. So for that more thick, real deep bass sound, you want to be backing that down here so it's in the real kind of low bass territory. And the sliders basically just affect the overall amount of that goes through the amp. So push that up a little bit. And then that's the same through the rest of this EQ section here. You've got mids between 750 and 7.5k, and you've got trebles between 3.5 and 10k. So in much the same way, you pick what kind of frequency you want using these rotary controls, and then the amount of it by using these sliders. So you can see here we've got a fairly bass heavy sort of sound. So engage the EQ so that's working now. We'll use the shape button as well. And then from that you can hear that gives us this real sort of thick deep bass sound, you know. Okay, so yeah, changing the EQ now slightly, we've put the basses up a little bit and then increased the mid and the treble as well. So that gives us a different sound altogether, you know, much more snappy and punchy. So that gives us this kind of tone. Okay, and then, you know, we can get other sounds out of this as well. So by boosting up the bass and taking more of a scoop on the amp, we get a sound that's typically suited to things like slap, so tones along the lines of this. Okay, and then the rest of the front panel of the amp obviously encompasses the output, which is just your overall volume. But another really interesting feature of this amp is the line-in socket here. Now, with that, you can plug an external source into it, so say a CD player or something like that, and the level of it can be controlled here. Now, we're going to talk about the back of the amp a little bit later on, but through using that line in, you can use the amp's headphone socket on the back and essentially have silent practice, you know, so for learning sets in a hotel room or bedroom practice, this really is a great feature to have because it gives you that extra option where you don't necessarily need to be practicing with a cab all the time. So we're going to now move on and talk about some of the features of the back panel of the amp. Okay, yeah, so moving on to the back of the amp here, really well laid out, really simple, really easy to use. You've got your DI output here first of all, and you've got your pre-post button here. So that just basically lets you either put the amp's EQ through the DI or have it flat, just with this little switch here. You've got an effects send and return, you've got a line out, and the headphone socket there as well. And as far as the outputs of the amps go, it's great. You've got a combination output here, so you can use both speak-on cables, jack cables, both of them is fine. And then obviously just your on-off switch there. Okay, so that was the MiBass 220. Hope you enjoyed that and thanks very much for watching.